Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode. So, in this episode, I'd like to talk about Joel Meyerowitz. He's one of my favorites. So, I was just, I that's what I do. Like my favorite photographers, I just surf the web and look at their images. So, I was just looking at a lot of different images from Joel. Something struck me. I noticed a pattern, and it's this pattern here of the World Trade Center. Now, if I would have just seen one, I would have given it no thought. I would know where he shot it from, his point of origin, and it really wouldn't have mattered. But as I was searching all these different images, this variation on a theme came up, and I knew it was a giveaway. Joel had kind of made a mistake. He had telegraphed either his residence, it was being photographed from his residence or from his studio. So as we say in the military, he gave his position away, which is kind of bad. But anyways, and he's not there anymore. That's why I'm making this video. If he was still there, I wouldn't betray his position. So long story short, he's not there anymore, and that's why I'm able to make this video. So my point is, I wanted to using this principle called resection. It's part of map reading. You can find your way back if you don't know where you are. If you know where something is in your line of sight, you can trace it back to your position. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use one of these photographs to actually trace back right to Joel's lens, right to his lens. I mean, within 10 feet or so. Okay, so you can see here some of these are unusable. I can't use this one in the lower left quadrant. It's too dark. This has been pixelated from enlarging. This one is a little too dark, and this is what we need. This upper left one. So let's go in a little bit tighter. So so this is it. So you can see here it's a very usable image. It's there's plenty of light to do what we need to do. Okay, so here's how we're going to trace our way back to the camera lens. It's either, we call it, like an azimuth is generally magnetic. So we're not using a compass here. This isn't about using a compass. It's about using lines of sight, which is very analogous to a magnetic azimuth if you were holding a compass. Okay, so here's the giveaways. Here's the three things that are going to lead us back to Joel's camera. So if you'll see here, this is the World Trade Center, right? So we can see the two towers. The south tower is over here, and here's the north, because the north had the communications mast, the transmitter. Okay, so this is the communications mast, and if you draw a line right down to the axis of the north tower, it's bisecting this building between the second and third window. In Joel's line of sight, the north tower is bisecting this building between the second and third window. Over here, this building has 6 windows across. The sixth window is bisecting the left third of this building here. So we have 2 lines of sight that we can use. And now, so we have the lines of sight, but what we need now is elevation. How high in the air was Joel, and what floor did he take the photo? So I look over here at this building. Well, you got to use something close, because if you use something too far, it becomes invalid. It's not usable. So even here, we're kind of getting in some gray area. But I thought, okay, it's generally close enough. We can use this. So what I have to do is I have to find what floors these are on this building, because these two to me appeared to be about the most eye level. Okay, so once we find this building, we count up, and there's a notch here. So this is the last floor before the notch. This yellow line is obscuring it a little bit. So all I have to do is count to the notch and identify these 2 floors, and then this one, this one, this one, and this one, and then bingo, we're going to get back to where we need to be. Okay, so let's go to Google Earth. So and this is the other thing I forgot here. So on the north tower, we can see the sun. The sun is just glinting here off the west face, right? Because this here in the foreground is north. If this is the north tower, and the north tower is obscuring the south tower, then of course we know this is north. This isn't, the financial district is this way, so this is more north of the financial district, and it's got to be a little bit west of this face here, right? Because obviously the sun sets to the west, the sun is setting, and it's glinting across this western face of the north tower. Okay, so let's go to Google Earth. We're going to go to Google Earth here, and what we're going to do is so here is the outline. This was the south tower. So my map is backwards here. So North is this way where my cursor is moving. So this is the imprint of the south tower, and this is the imprint of the north tower. So what is I did is I used the line measuring tool here in Google Earth, and I just swung a line. I'm trying to approximate, so I'm trying to find those buildings. So this was my third attempt. This was a successful attempt, but it was my third because the first time I came up too short. I thought it would be about here, and I couldn't find it. Then I came out to about here somewhere, couldn't find it, and then I came out here further, and this is what I did. So you start coming in. This was my third attempt, and I'm looking for that building, right? And here I found the one with the notches I was telling you. So this is oh god dog it. So this is the building. It's 161 West 16th Street. So what I need to do, so here's that notch I was talking about. So I had to go down to street level, right, and work my way around the building and count up to this notch to see if, I didn't know if it was parallel or not, but I had, and this, because this is the view right here, I had to get these two floors. So let me go back to my images, and I was able to ascertain the floors. Again, I had to work my way around the building. This is a subfloor. You can't count from here because this is an artificial, this is like a subroof. So the floors in question that to me most line up with eye level are floors 12 and 13. So Joel, when I trace it back to the suspected building, it's got to be at least 12 or 13 floors tall to count, right, to be the right building. Okay, so let's go back to the Google Earth view here, and so here's what we needed to do. So we needed to find remember those 5 buildings in the image. So this was the first building, and this was the second building. I've confirmed this one, 77 7th Avenue. And let's see, where was the, okay, so this was, yep, so this is the other building. This was the one building. Remember, the line came through right about here between these two windows. I found this, went to the street view rather, and confirmed it as 147 West 15th Street. Coming back out further, I need to find some more buildings. Bingo, here's that one building, and this is the building here. You'll see, I'll just go to it now. This is the building. So this is one of the documents. This is from 1981. This is the building here. So you can see it's outside. And let me show you the other one. This is Joel doing an interview in 1982, the following year, and you can see here he's in this building, and we're getting this. This is 77 7th Avenue, and this is 161 West 16th Street. So again, we got to find our way back, and that's what we're going to do now. So here's the building, and again, I drew my line. I straightened out the line to come through the second and third window of 138 West 17th Street. Came out. Now this is So I found 138 West 17th Street. So I'm coming back, and I'm continuing on this arc. Again, I'm always adjusting this red line to be on the correct azimuth. So we come back, and again, I spent quite a few hours trying to find this, and I finally did, because this has changed since 1988. And I forgot to tell you that all 4 of those images Joel took in 1988. So this has changed quite a bit in the 30 years that have since transpired. But I found, long story short, I found the building. So this was Joel's studio right here. It's 151 West 19th Street. And so I'll show you let me show it to you how it looks from the front in Google Maps. So this is the studio here. This is where Joel took the photo in one of these. Believe me, I've just spent quite a few hours on this. So it could have been possibly the 11th floor, but I doubt it. So if you count up, this is a 12 floor building. At first, I was even suspecting Joel took it from the roof, but because I thought maybe it's possible he lived on a lower floor and used, coordinated with the building manager to come up to the roof and shoot on the roof, because that would make floor 13. But then you can see these notches here. These are fatal falls. If Joel were to get too close to these notches, these are unguarded. I'll show you here, the wall actually, right? These are notches that are level with the roof. Let me show you another one. If my doggone, my memory's starting to lock up on me. Okay, so we're going back here, and it's the same on the opposite end. I just wanted to show you something else for giggles too. It was kind of neat. is that the so here's the notch. This is when, if Joel were to take the photo from the roof, you can see there's two notches here, and this is a six-story fall. So Joel, I don't think he would have chanced trying to get this shot from the roof if he had lived on a lower floor. So this is what I'm talking about. So there's another notch here, and there's one further back. So this is, it's too dangerous to get up here and photograph. So that's why I thought, okay, I don't think he did photograph it from the roof. Number one, it's too dangerous. So we saw here, this is it right here. This is Joel's building. And I wanted to show you right here. These are the notches again. But this is the sign. This is a remnant. It's still there, believe it or not, this lettering. And I'll come back to the photo and show you the last image here. This is an image of the Joel's building from quite some time ago. This used to be the Griffin Cutlery Works, and it was here from 1920 to 1968 in this building. And they made shears and different women's beauty supplies and men's barber for barber shops. They would make scissors and stuff. So I thought that was so neat that this building goes back that far. And this is also cool. This is it's just a little segue, but Griffin Cutlery, it used to be called Griffin Cutlery Works, and then they changed, and the company changed the name to Griffin Cutlery Corporation, and they didn't even bother really to sandblast out the works and then repaint the corp. They just kind of went right over it, and I thought that was so cool. I mean, it's just, people being people. They didn't even really do that well. But see, these are the notches again I'm talking about, where I don't think Joel would have chanced it to come up on the roof. It's a fatal fall, so why chance it? But again, all these years later, this is almost 100 years, right? We don't know exactly what year it was painted. It had to be, after 1920 and before 1968. But there's still remnants here of these barber shears and the scissors on this wall, and I thought that was so cool. But so one more time, we identified Joel's building. This was Joel's studio in the 1980s. So again, he was here in the 1981 documentary. He was here in the 1982 documentary, and then he was that's where he took the 4 images from, which led me into this in the first place. So again, that's how you do it. So we were able, by looking at 4 photographs and plotting these lines from the North Tower. This left line goes all the way back to the North Tower of World Trade, and it bisects these buildings exactly as they appear in the photograph, right, through the second and third window, and it brings me right to 151 West 19th. Do you remember the other one? It was this right here, the 6th window bisecting this right here, coming right between these 2 windows, coming through this 6th window here, right here where I'm moving my hand, and then right back to Joel's place. And so what's cool is now this is in 3D. It gets a little squirrely. You can see the line moves a little bit in 3D. But if you use it in 2D, it comes almost right to the left edge of this building, right here, almost exactly. So that's why I really believe Joel took the image from either this window or this window here. I think Joel had the entire floor. This was Joel's floor, the 12th floor. Again, there's a possibility it was the 11th. But I'm pretty certain it was the 12th. And he had, in this documentary over here, you can see, left and right of this timestamp, the photographer, the videographer pans, and Joel's got the entire floor. So that's why I believe Joel had set the camera up in one of these 2 windows. So that's the power of open source intelligence, using open source intelligence tools, that just by looking at these 4 photographs, let me go back. Just by looking at these 4 photographs, and especially this one, just by this photograph and establishing 2 lines of sight, we were able to identify Joel's studio. So again, he gave his position away, and he can, he's emeritus now. He's living in Italy with his wife, and I think he's pretty much abandoned everything in New York. But from what I gather, he still has a place, but it's on the Upper West Side. So again, I'm not trying to betray Joel in any capacity here by showing this, because I think he's since abandoned it. So one other thing I wanted to show you. Now we did this whole exercise in resection, but I wanted to show you Joel's corner. This is Joel's corner. He worked this corner for almost 50 years. And to me, it's really hallowed ground. And I don't mean that to be dramatic or sensational. This corner is literally, to me, as a photographer, as a serious photographer since 1993, This is Hallowed, and I'll show you why. This is a documentary. Again, this is a, I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same documentary. So Joel is working the northwest corner of Fifth Avenue and 57th Street, and this was Van Cleef and Arpels way back then, and it still is. So Van Cleef and Arpels has occupied this building at least since 1981, and I don't know how long before that, but it's been that for the duration. So Joel and Van Cleef and Arpels have been kind of partners, in the street photography business for the duration, right? It's always been Van Cleef and Arpels, which is kind of amazing to me. So this is 1981. Look at this, 2009, 28 years later. Joel is back. He's doing a documentary here from Magrac, and it's, you can see this building back here. This is 59th, I believe. And so I'm just trying to establish that I know it's this corner. And just they showed it, actually showed the street signs. It was 5th and 57th. So this is Van Cleef and Arpels is just out of frame here to his right, camera left, his right. He's back on the same corner 28 years later. So we know Joel worked this corner. This is the north corner, northwest corner of. This is Fifth Avenue going this way, and this is 57th going this way. And I want to show you what's really cool about this. This is Bulgari, and this is the famous Tiffany building, and this is where Audrey Hepburn stood in this window and in this window for the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's. Do you remember the taxi cab comes down Fifth Avenue, and this is Fifth Avenue is one way now going south, but before I think it was two way. But anyways, the taxi comes up, she gets out, and she looks in the windows, turns the corner, throws something in a little trash bin, and she leaves. So this is in itself is very iconic. So the reason I'm showing you this here, and this is Louis Vuitton on the other corner. So what I'm trying to get at here is this is truly hallowed ground to me. So what I would request of you is if you ever make the trip to New York as a photographer, I would ask you please to visit this corner. I did in December 2015. Make the pilgrimage, and kind of tip your hat to Joel. Come here, take your camera, get some photos, right? Get some, street photographs, people walking up and down the street as Joel did. Joel is still alive. I'm not trying to talk about him in the past tense. I'm just talking about his being emeritus now and basically retired at 80 years of age. He's kind of called it quits and moved to Italy with his wife. So when you make the pilgrimage, please observe a few seconds of silence for Joel. Think of Joel and that he spent almost 50 years on this corner. So when you stand there, I really ask you to absorb that, kind of drink that in, that a photographer worked that corner for 50 years. And it's just overwhelming to try to grasp that, to think of how many people he saw, over those 50 years. And this is another thing he did too. This was kind of his beat. He would walk Fifth Avenue up here to 58th, and there's the Grand Army Park up here, Grand Army Plaza, and William Tecumseh Sherman Monument. It's a little bit up further north, and the Central Park is just a little bit up even further. But Joel walked this a block from 57th to 58th, and he would photograph people in this little plaza. So he beat this pavement to death over 50 years, just trying to get shots here in the plaza. Then he would return here to 57th Street. So again, when you make the pilgrimage, you can do your pilgrimage to Joel, take some street photographs on that corner, and then visit here. I did this too. I stood in these windows and just kind of drank that in to think that Audrey Hepburn stood, in 1960, 61, where I was standing. It's kind of overwhelming if you really think about it. So, and this is another thing too, and I'll close it out with this, and it's really quite amazing. So I showed you his corner, right? Let me go back to Google Earth. This is incredible. It's really phenomenal. Let me come way out. So that photo I showed you of Joel in his studio photographing the North Tower, the distance from his window to the North Tower is 2.20 miles. Okay, and I did it very, very precisely. It's not 2.19 and it's not 2.21. It's 2.20 miles. His distance from his studio to his favorite corner is 50, and right to the corner, as a matter of fact, that north corner. If he would have walked, Fifth Avenue was his favorite. So generally, he probably walked 19th Street to 5th Avenue, and then 5th Avenue all the way to his favorite corner. That distance, 2.20 miles. Not 2.19, not 2.21, 2.20. So it's equidistant. It's actually equidistant from his studio to the North Tower, and from his studio to his walk at 5th and 57th. I don't even know if Joel is aware of that. That is actually literally both are 2.20 miles to the 100 with accuracy to 100th of a mile. So I thought that was pretty amazing, the way that shook out. So again, so the primary, again, the two reasons I recorded this video are to show you how to use resection no matter where you are. If you can confirm one or two lines of sight, you can actually trace the photo right back to the camera lens to determine where it was taken. And secondly, I wanted to show you this corner and how Joel stood here for 50 years. So if you make the pilgrimage there, please observe a few moments of silence on that corner, as I did for Joel, and take some street photos, just to just an homage to Joel. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.